What's up everyone, I'm Grizz, and today I'm here for Season 2, Episode 2 of Vinland Saga. Last week we were introduced to Einar, or Einar, I still don't really know how to say his name, someone please let me know. We were shown the little journey that he went on where he had to unfortunately lose his family and his village and get sold into slavery with nothing to return to. There he constantly questioned himself and the things that his mother used to tell him about living and what it means to be alive and what is like his worth and what does he have anymore now that he's lost everything, and also just taking into account things like freedom and what it means to be free and what it means to and what the purpose is in life or his life in general, whether it's worth it to keep going or if he should just give up or not. Some truly unfortunate and heavy stuff. We also got to see Leif reintroduced, where he was coming to the slave auction, I guess, to look for Thorfinn, who, as we later find out, has already been sold and is now at the same exact farm as Einar is. A few questions were proposed to me throughout that episode where I thought of the situation and circumstances they're going to be in on this farm. Is this guy a better owner in comparison to the others, as he was giving Einar like free range to kind of just walk around? We saw it as he wasn't like shackling him up or doing anything, whereas I still don't believe he's a good person due to the fact that he does still own people. Could this be a better situation than, say, he could have been sold into, trying to find a more positive outlook on the unfortunate situation he is in? We then get to see Thorfinn, who looks a lot older and just bigger. I was informed via one of your comments in the last episode that Thorfinn's only been gone or a slave for a bit over a year, and that he's only 19, so he's not really much older, but he definitely has aged a ton. Maybe it's just through circumstances he's in, or maybe he's really just gone through a lot mentally and learned a lot, and also that he is very short still. So he just definitely got built a bit more through all the like manual labor and stuff he probably had to do. Did not have any issues with the copyright stuff last week, so we should be good to go again for this week. So I'm just going to do the same stuff. If the video has no audio or there is no actual reaction video after this point, please check the description for it. There will be a link to one in there if that's the case. If not, we should be good to go. So let's get started with episode 2. Absolute banger opening. I could not find this on Apple Music and I was very heartbroken by it. So I don't know if it just hasn't been posted yet or what, but the YouTube version was on loop. You can be friends. Are you just slaves though, or can they actually be friends? See, he seems like a good guy so far. Oh yeah, Thorfinn is really tiny. A farm. Or a forest. Let's look in the opposite way. Wrong. Looking towards the future and positive outlooks. Wow. Wow. Interesting. So he really isn't a bad guy. So that small sign that I saw. Wow. Do this favor for me, I'll let you go free. I mean, he could just let them go free now, but it's like a paid job. But now you work with him, like alongside. So has Thorfinn known this since he's been here? Are you gonna tell him about Leif? Thorfinn's not very social. Thorfinn forgot how to socialize. Okay, they do. Where's that? Yeah. Drinking out of a bag? What is in the bag? The water? Oh. Yeah, you got like probably 3 to 10 years. Got a lot of work. Yeah, stop trying to do it on your own. Well, we gotta clear some shit out. You don't. Oh, we do. Okay. You gotta find it yourself. Oh, okay. Things definitely aren't as good as I'm thinking they are right now. So are these guys not slaves then? Oh yeah, I guess they got the horse, so of course not. Here's your lunch. What's in it? What Thorfinn was drinking out of? You get bread. You get half a piece of bread. Oh yeah, he was eating it on the way down, wasn't he? It's treating them like their shit, but he was a slave before as well, so I wonder why you would resent people like that. I'm assuming he was at least. Should learn from him, yeah. Interesting. You got a lot to learn, buddy. What are you supposed to do? Just die? I think this is one of those just situations where it's like somebody new's coming in and wants to change the way things are, but they don't know how anything around here operates and works. And that's why Thorfinn's not putting up with anything. He's just kind of letting them do what they want. Yeah. We have to do their job because they'll do something to us if we don't, I'm assuming. Damn, Thorfinn probably had to do all this shit alone before. A hard day's work. But they will. This procedure around here, though. Yeah. Absolutely. I guarantee you he does. But it doesn't matter. He's not gonna do anything. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Don't. Ooh. Is that his daughter? Love at first sight. Hold your tongue, buddy. Yeah, I'm assuming that's his daughter, probably. Slave falls in love with the daughter. Yeah, why'd you not? What changed? Is it just you don't want to seem like whiny and bitchy in front of the girl you like type of thing? So he works too, he doesn't just leave everything to them. Look how much nicer it is and happier it is on this side though. Oh, are they over here too? Weird. That's also what I thought. Yeah. No, actually there's a difference. They're happy, you're not. There's a proper way to do it. Ooh. Okay. Below the knee. So they have to clear the forest, but that's not their only job. They have to do other stuff too. That's his son. So that's why he's not. He said, fuck this, I'm out. Ah. Ooh. What should he be doing then? Your version is different than your dad's. He wants to fight. Be a warrior. It's weird, the restrictions are different than I would have imagined. Yeah. It's not the same girl we saw before, right? And then we can stay together. Is she a slave too, I wonder then? Good daughter of mine. Get in with the family. So the daughter's just playing for the money. I like it though. Good tactic. Family's just sitting out. Okay, you gotta calm down. Yeah. Yep. It's exactly what they want, though. He doesn't want to be like him, yeah. Doesn't want to farm. He just wants to do everything that's different. He wants to experience different things. So are these just like other farmers that are around them, or farmers that like work for the farm? Nah, hang out with the boys. Yeah, relax. Relax. Yeah, let's hang out with the boys. I like these guys. You think it's cool until you get into it. The unknown is what you seek, though. Says the one who hasn't been into war, though, to the one who has. Yeah. King of England. Was it the same group the second time? Oh, so it was a while before. I thought it happened like really quick back to back. Okay. It's an eye-opener to Thorfinn. They're all the same. They all want the same. So everyone that he loves die in front of him. It's like someone we know reflecting when he saw. Yep. So I think it was the same village that they burned. Alright, I think for future episodes, I gotta get like a pen and paper or something to start writing down like timestamps and stuff to talk about, because like they're things I'm not gonna remember, and they're things I like want to get back to, like specific quotes or things that are said. So I'm gonna end up missing them out here. But with that said, that was episode 2. We get introduced to an interesting dynamic for the farm in which they all work on. I don't know. I don't have too much like experience and knowledge when it comes to other like shows and just like actual history of like former slaves and stuff like that. But from what I've always understood, the slaves were always kept like very separate from everyone. There'd be little to no communication with the actual masters themselves. There'll be like little to no communication with anybody else who's within his family or works around there. We also have these people called retainers, who I guess are the middle ground people. Maybe I might be misunderstanding this, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're people who were slaves who bought back their freedom but then had nowhere else to go, so they stayed continuing to work on the farm, but they have more freedoms than the slaves. That's at least what I'm believing. If that's not the case, then I think they're just people who live on the land themselves, but they have nowhere else to go, so they work for them, but they're not considered slaves because they were never like bought that way. So they're just your normal workers. So I think it's one of those two, I believe. Back to the point of this not being like a normal dynamic. So if this isn't a normal dynamic, and that's how I'm perceiving it to be, this guy isn't necessarily the worst, but he's not like just trying to give them their freedom, you know? But he's giving them opportunities and things that other people don't get, right? And I do believe, if I remember correct, I have heard things in the past of like other shows and stuff where they're slaves and they do have the opportunity to buy themselves free, but they're also given like tasks that are like impossible to complete. Whereas this task that they're given, in which they can buy themselves free, is basically to clear out this entire forest. He uses a line which I can't find because I'm dumb, but he uses a line that it's not just a forest, and it's like it's something that like you look at. He looks at it and he can see a wheat field. He can see into the future, almost like he sees a brighter thing and like a different perspective than others might, right? And he's looking forward, and he's not trying to look at the negatives and look at the past, and he's trying to find positives in these situations, which is an interesting way for him to look at it. And by him doing that, we find out that you can buy yourself free, and they have to clear out this entire forest. He says that at earliest it will take him like 3 years, which doesn't sound like that bad of a deal. We find out the forest is a lot bigger than that's actually the case, so it technically is going to take him, my guess would be like 3 to 10 years. I do wonder, Thorfinn's been here for a while now. Was Thorfinn filled in on this initially when he came here? I'm guessing probably so. Or did he just find out now? I don't know. But I think he did probably find out beforehand. Einar loves the idea of this because it makes him think that he can get himself out of this. But it's one of those, he's so in the moment because he's not thinking about the things that he literally was just thinking in the last episode, where he has nothing to return to after this. So what does he do after this happens, right? Like, he's going to spend his entire time like Thorfinn was in the first season, where he's constantly like fueled by this one thing. And in Thorfinn's situation, it was the revenge he was trying to get for his dad, right? Which his dad never asked for, but he was fueled by that in order to get it. And then we find out at the end, he literally has never thought about what he wants to do with his life after the fact. And to me, this is a similar situation here with Einar, because the moment he hears that he can buy himself free and that it might take 3 years or maybe more, he immediately starts trying to get to work. He's told to observe Thorfinn and what he does to try and figure out like how everything works, but he immediately picks up the axe and tries to do it on his own. He's trying to speed this along because he wants to get to that point that he can get free. But being so in that moment and so fueled by what you have going on, he's not even thinking about what's going to come after the fact. What occurs afterwards when he's free and he has no family to go back to, and he has no homeland for him to get back to, and ultimately he's going to probably get stuck back up on this farm again, right? What occurs in that situation? Where does he really go from here? Is he free at the end of the day, even after he buys his freedom? We then get to see this group of guys who we then find out were retainers. They're the ones who bring the lunch to the slaves. The only slaves we know are Thorfinn and Einar. So they bring them their lunch. We see the one guy in the back is eating bread as he walks up, but then when we find out and Einar gets his bag of what his lunch is supposed to be in there, he has like such a tiny piece of bread left because the dude who was walking down was eating it on him. So he still had to give him something, but he didn't want to give it to all of them, right? And these guys are essentially looking down on the slaves, right? As I said before, I don't know if they were slaves before and they're not anymore, or if they've always just been in this exact situation. Regardless, still not being at the top and still looking down on the people below you is something that is kind of fucked up. Under the assumption that they weren't slaves before and they've always just been in this situation and didn't really have anywhere else to go, they are very similar to somebody like Einar and Thorfinn, where they were actually just sold into the situation, but they have nowhere else to go and they're all stuck on this place together. So why not just, ideal world, get along and do what you have to do to help out so everything runs smoothly? But instead you have to have some sort of hierarchy and everybody has to play the role because everybody's just fueled by having some sort of power, and it makes them feel good when they're labeled and looked at on top of other people. They also talk about these girls, I guess, that work there, and that they're talking about going to see them later and getting rejected and stuff. So they do have a lot more freedoms. They're not really enslaved, it seems like. Einar and Thorfinn then basically are told that they have to do this job, which is what the retainers' jobs is. So essentially the retainers are putting them to work and making them do their job so they have less of a load. Thorfinn doesn't really question it and just goes along with it, whereas Einar has an issue, and it's the example of somebody who's new comes in and notices things that are wrong with, I guess, like the structure and the hierarchy and the way things that are run within the system, right? Like if you've ever gotten a new job and you go in somewhere and a few days in, you start noticing like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Why do you do things like that? Why do they, like that procedure could be shortened or could be easier done this way. With the situation with the trees when they had to move them, and he's like, can't we just cut it shorter so it's easier? Well, you need to get permission to do that. And these are things, of course, it would be easier if you took it upon yourself and found easier routes to do it, but that's just not the way things are done here. It's the same situation where they take over and have to do the retainer's job. But Einar has such an issue with it that he tells Thorfinn he's going to go and tell the master about what they've been putting them up to and what they've been making them do. Thorfinn continuously tells him, do not do that. Why? We don't know exactly, right? Thorfinn does say, actually, I think that they'll get more mad and they'll like come at you even harder. So I wonder in that situation if they actually come and tell the master what is wrong, and then the master goes and tells the retainers like to stop what they're doing, but the retainers just come at it even harder because they just get pissed that they basically snitched on them. Or if the master himself is like, oh, these guys who are at the bottom of the barrel are over here talking shit and snitching on you, go fuck them up even more, be even more harsh towards them. So that I don't know. We also get to see a bit more into Thorfinn here and how he's not really thinking much throughout this entire episode. He doesn't really talk, and saying he's not thinking much might be wrong on my part, but he doesn't really like talk back or say things much, right? And he's very calculating in a way of what he wants to say and when he wants to speak. He's kind of keeping to himself, and it makes you think he has like a bigger picture in his mind, which is a good thing, or at least that he's just sitting there and reflecting on the things that he's done in the past and where he actually wants to move forward towards now. But this story so far is being told from Einar's point of view. When Einar questions him about his thoughts on all of this, his simple answer is, I don't know, it doesn't matter, right? Like, I don't have a care about what they're making me do or what's happening. I'm stuck here regardless, is almost the vibe I'm getting off of it. I'm just do what I'm told. It's not like it really matters. I can bitch and complain all I want, but I'm stuck. When asked by the master about his first day, when he goes to snitch, Einar then catches a glimpse of a girl. That girl is on the back of a carriage that is following the horse in which the master is riding on. So I'm led to believe that's probably his daughter. We later find out he does have a son too, but I'm led to believe that's his daughter. So it's like a love at first sight type of thing, I guess. That's the vibe I was getting off of it. Maybe not from her perspective, but definitely from Einar's. And it was one of those situations where I guess she's like so beautiful in a way that he loses all like sense of thought, and he doesn't know what to say. Like he gets stuck, like he's so mesmerized by what he's looking at. And it ultimately leads to him not saying anything and them moving on their way and going on with their day. I don't know if that was just the situation or if Einar himself saw this girl and he was like, I best not bitch and complain in front of her, you know? I mean, act like a man and act like nothing's really bothering me, like that kind of thing, where you don't want to seem like, you know, you're whiny or complain all the time or have all these issues in front of the girl that you like. Or he could have also saw it as an opportunity, whereas if I'm complaining to this guy so much, I'll never be able to see this girl or get close to this girl again if what Thorfinn is telling me is true. I don't know. So he's holding back in order so he can see her more. Then we see something else that I find fascinating, where the master himself is out on the fields and he's working. So he's not leaving all the work just to slaves or just to the retainers. So he's actually out there putting in his own work. Now, I don't know if this is something that he actually does often, because then we find out that he's trying to show his son what to do, because his son's going to be the one who takes over this farm at some point. But his son does not want to listen. Regardless, I thought that this was going to be a situation where they're on this other side and you see all these kids running around happy and smiling, and all the people who are even working are like happy, it seems like, over here. But then that's like the contrast of over here things are good, but over where Thorfinn and Einar are, they're not. But that's not the case, because Thorfinn and Einar are actually over there with them and working in similar ways. So they're not restricted of going into these certain areas, or they're not restricted of interacting with, say, his family or him or even the people in the middle. None of it really matters. So he does give them a lot more freedom than I felt that we were going to see. His son is not enjoying this whatsoever, though, as we later find out he doesn't want to be like his dad in the slightest. His dad is trying to teach him what to do to take over this farm, but his son does not want that whatsoever. He wants to see different things. He wants to do different things than his dad. He doesn't want to be stuck here working with a farm and slaves and dealing with all this for his entire life. He wants to become a warrior. He wants to take up something different. He wants to adventure. He wants to see the world. He wants to do things that are not set up for him, which isn't a bad thing, right? He doesn't want to sit there and bask in all the greatness and money and wealth that his dad basically can provide him. And he does want to set his own path and do his own things, which is a very admirable thing to look at and think about. But he's also being unreasonable, where he thinks becoming a warrior and fighting and doing all this is like some sort of amazing and great achievement, right? And this is also the situation Einar was in the first episode, where he's like, oh, I want to be able to become strong and do this to protect people, but I also want to be able to just be a warrior, right? He talks about how he wants to join Prince Canut's army, so he wants to train and set off for that. And it's interesting to see, because you have somebody who's all the way at the top who wants to do this, but then you have people who are on the other side, the slaves and Thorfinn and Einar, mainly Thorfinn though, who has done this and he's been through all of this before, and he knows what it's like, and he knows it's not all glitz and glamour like this guy's thinking. And maybe somebody like Thorfinn just wants a simple life where he gets to work on a field and, you know, not have to deal with killing off people and do all this other stuff, see people lose their homes and their family. And that's something that maybe could be figured out if they sat down and had a conversation. But his son seems like somebody who doesn't want to deal with slaves and doesn't want to have to put up with any of that. The son does have this girl in his room with him, and we find out basically she's just trying to get in with him in a way. She's trying to make him fall in love and try and get everything that comes with being married to the master's son, and who would be the future master himself, as her parents are on the outside of the door and they're listening in and praising her and being happy as things are going her way. But he's not completely dumb. He knows what's happening, and he immediately storms out of there, and he even tells the parents, I'm not doing this just for, like, to give you my money. I know what you're here for. At this point, he self-admits it, that I'm my own person and I'm not my father's tag along. I'm not him. Stop making me out to be him, and I want to set my own path and do my own things, right? We then meet these guys, the boys. They're cool as hell. I think they're also the guys in the middle. I think they just don't have their own farms and they're just working, but you get to see they do have some more rights as they were out, and they're just going around drinking and having a good night and trying to get the son to be with them and just have a good time and talk to them and entertain them for a night. And back to one of the earlier points, we then get to see Einar and Thorfinn, mainly Einar, discussing about the son and how he probably thinks warriors are cool and that he should probably just sit here and deal with the farm. And these are people who have dealt with it. Thorfinn literally being involved in doing it, and Einar having to see his village raided by these evil people that he considers to be beasts. This reminds me of something like in Chainsaw Man, where they talk about how to be a devil hunter. You have to have like a couple screws loose up in the head because of everything that you're gonna have to put yourself through and go through. And it's kind of like that with being a warrior, I'd say, where you can't be all there, and there has to be something wrong with you to want to sit there and be like, oh, this is the life that I want to live, especially from somebody on the outside. And that's where his term of beast comes in, where they're not the same as other people. Despite us all being people, there's something different about them that makes them have to be one, right? Like from the last season, look at like Torkel, how he's like completely insane and all he wants to do is just fight, and he absolutely loves it, right? Like there's always something going on in your head that makes you different and stand out from the others. He then brings up to Thorfinn how his village was raided twice, completely burned down both times. The first by the English and the second time by the Danes, and how the Danes were saying that they were only going to protect them, but realistically they were there just to burn it down. When he brought up the Danes, his eye opens, whereas it didn't when he brought up the first time. So it was like an eye opener to hear about the Danes, maybe because of everything that is going on now. Regardless, after a bit, still nothing from Thorfinn, as he's just sitting there in his thoughts, and we get to see into his mind a little bit, how we see from his perspective of him just being a kid watching an entire village burn down, which was early into the first season, I believe, when that happened. Was this the same village that occurred from? I think that's very possible. I think I brought that up last episode, how I thought that might have been the case, and I'm bringing it up again as I do believe that was probably the case. It may not be. They could be entirely different, and this could just be him reflecting on having to watch a village burn for the first time and all these people lose their families and lives, and how he handled it and just what was going through his mind at the time versus maybe how he feels about it now. It's rather interesting to me. Like, I wonder if the whole entire season for the most part is going to be told from Einar's perspective, whereas we're not really hearing much from Thorfinn and everything is coming from Einar himself. What exactly Thorfinn's had going on this past year or so that he's probably been gone, we haven't really heard much. He's been very keeping to himself, and I wonder if he has like some sort of plan that he's trying to do, if he has something that he wants to do once he frees himself, if he's even looking forward to the future, or if he's just kind of stuck and he's like, I have nothing to return to regardless, even though he technically has his family, right? His mom and his sister still back home, or as far as we know, they're still alive and they're still out there. I would like to see a conversation between the two slaves and the master's son. I think that could be interesting, and just given their perspective on him going to war and being a warrior. I'm curious to see what developments or what goes with Einar and this girl that he appears to be interested in, and just for really anything else that they bring and propose to us here. It literally just seems like people who are lost souls in a way and trying to find their way and find what they care about and value in life, but also trying to be their own person and stray away from people around them, or people how they were in their past, but also just figure out who they really are and their values and their cares. Let me know down below what you thought of the episode, anything to add, anything I completely missed, anything that was just notable. Leave a like and subscribe. It makes me feel better when I get them. Links to my Twitter and my anime list are both in the description. Feel free to follow me on there and add me as a friend. I'll be back next week for episode 3. Peace.